Ever feel like you're capable of so much more, but life keeps handing you lemons, or in this case, pizzas? What if one unexpected delivery could change everything? This is the story of Mary, and trust me, you're going to feel every ounce of her frustration and every spark of her hope. Get ready to see how a single moment can ignite a fire you never knew existed. The scent of pepperoni and cheap mozzarella filled Mary's beat-up Corolla. Another Friday night, another stack of lukewarm pizzas, another dent in her already bruised self-esteem. MIT graduate, now a pizza delivery driver. The irony wasn't lost on her. It was a constant, bitter taste in her mouth. She pulled up to TechFlow Solutions, a sleek, modern building that hummed with the quiet confidence of innovation. "Order for Smith," she mumbled to the receptionist, her voice barely above a whisper, while the receptionist buzzed Mr. Smith. Mary leaned against the cool glass of the lobby, trying to ignore the knot of resentment tightening in her stomach. Through the glass doors leading to the main office, she could see a group of engineers huddled around a whiteboard, their faces etched with frustration. "It's the algorithm, I'm telling you," one of them exclaimed, throwing his hands up in the air. "It's just not optimizing correctly. We've been at this for hours." Another engineer sighed, rubbing his temples. "We're supposed to present this to the board on Monday. If we don't crack this, we're toast." Mary's ears perked up. Algorithm optimization? That was practically her bread and butter back at MIT. Before life happened. Before the student loans piled up and the job market crashed, and she ended up folding pizza boxes instead of coding groundbreaking software. Against her better judgment, curiosity tugged at her. She found herself instinctively analyzing the problem, the mathematical principles clicking into place in her mind. She could see the flaw in their approach, a simple tweak that would streamline the entire process. Mr. Smith arrived, his face a mask of polite indifference. "Here you go," he said, accepting the pizza with a perfunctory nod. "Keep the change." As she walked back to her car, Mary replayed the scene in her head. The frustrated engineers, the unsolvable problem, the potential solution that burned in her mind. A solution she, Mary Santos, pizza delivery driver, could provide. She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Doubt gnawed at her. Who was she to offer help? They wouldn't listen to a pizza girl. They'd probably laugh her out of the building. But beneath the layers of insecurity and disappointment, a tiny spark flickered to life. A spark of hope, a spark of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't completely washed up. Maybe her potential wasn't entirely wasted. As she drove off, the unsolved problem at TechFlow Solutions remained stubbornly lodged in her mind. The algorithm, the deadline, the opportunity, it all swirled together, a tempting, terrifying invitation. Could she really intervene? Could she risk putting herself out there, knowing the potential for humiliation? The thought wouldn't leave her. The pizza run was over, but Mary's journey was just beginning. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. The TechFlow problem continued to nag at Mary. Even while carefully placing pepperoni on a half-baked pizza, her mind drifted back to the frustrated engineers and the algorithm that wouldn't cooperate. It was like an itch she couldn't scratch, a puzzle demanding to be solved. Back in her tiny apartment, after a long Friday shift, Mary didn't collapse onto her worn sofa as usual. Instead, fueled by lukewarm coffee and a stubborn sense of purpose, she pulled out a dusty sketchbook. The kitchen table, usually covered in takeout menus and unpaid bills, became her temporary engineering station. She started sketching, diagrams and equations flowing from her pen onto the page. Years of training at MIT, buried under layers of pizza grease and disappointment, began to resurface. The elegant simplicity of a potential solution took shape, a streamlined approach that bypassed the problematic bottleneck in the TechFlow system. Doubt still lingered, a persistent whisper in the back of her mind. "Who are you to think you can solve their problem?" it hissed. "You're just a pizza delivery driver. They'll never take you seriously." But this time the whisper was a little quieter, a little less convincing. The spark of hope that had ignited earlier that evening refused to be extinguished. She thought of Grandma Lucy, her words echoing in her memory. "You have a gift, Maya. Don't let it go to waste." Remembering to use Maya's actual name instead of Mary. The hours flew by. Mary, lost in the intricate dance of code and logic, barely noticed the rising sun painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Finally, as the first rays of light peeked through her window, she had it. A complete, elegant solution, meticulously documented and ready to be presented. But the fear returned, stronger than ever. The thought of walking into TechFlow Solutions, offering her unsolicited help, filled her with dread. The potential for rejection, for humiliation, was almost unbearable. She paced her apartment, her hands clammy. Maybe I should just forget about it, she muttered to herself. It's not my problem. I'm just a pizza girl. Then she remembered the engineers' faces, their desperate pleas for a solution. She thought of the groundbreaking software they were trying to create, the potential impact it could have, and she thought of Grandma Lucy, urging her to use her gifts to make a difference. An idea sparked in her mind. Anonymously. She could submit her solution anonymously. No face-to-face confrontation, no risk of public humiliation, just the code, speaking for itself. She spent the next hour crafting an email, carefully stripping away any identifying information. She created a temporary email address, a digital ghost in the machine. Then, with trembling fingers, she attached the document and clicked send. A wave of relief washed over her, quickly followed by a surge of anxiety. Had she done the right thing? Would they even look at it? Or would her solution disappear into the vast digital void, another forgotten email in a corporate inbox? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Mary Sullivan, the disillusioned engineer turned pizza delivery driver, had taken a leap of faith. She had dared to believe in herself, to trust her instincts, to offer her help, even in the face of overwhelming self-doubt. The die was cast, the email was sent, and Mary's journey had taken an unexpected, potentially life-altering turn. Now all she could do was wait. But waiting was never her strong suit. What she didn't know was that Richard Mendez, CEO of TechFlow Solutions, was already looking for a miracle, and her anonymous solution might be exactly what he needed. Sarah felt her heart sinking. The send button had been a point of no return, a jump into a dark abyss. Now, the silence was deafening. Days blurred into a week, each notification on her phone sending a jolt of anxiety through her. She checked the temporary email address obsessively, finding nothing but the digital equivalent of dust bunnies. Doubt, a familiar foe, crept in, whispering insidious lies. They probably laughed at it, it hissed. They're professionals, Sarah. What did you think you were doing? She found herself replaying the imagined ridicule in her head, the condescending smiles, the dismissive comments. The image of her grandmother, Lucy, her biggest cheerleader, flickered in her mind, but even that wasn't enough to silence the rising tide of self-doubt. Maybe I should just forget about it, she muttered to herself, staring at the half-eaten pizza box on her table. Go back to delivering pizzas. It's safe, it's predictable. No one expects anything of me. She almost convinced herself. Almost. One particularly grueling evening, delivering pizzas in the pouring rain, she pulled up to a modest house a few blocks from TechFlow Solutions. An older gentleman, Mr. Abernathy, with kind eyes and a warm smile, answered the door. He fumbled for his wallet, his hands slightly shaky. Terrible weather, he said, handing her a generous tip. You be careful out there. Sarah managed a weak smile. Thank you, sir. You too. As she turned to leave, Mr. Abernathy paused. You know, he said, his voice surprisingly strong, a mind like yours shouldn't be delivering pizzas on a night like this, or any night, for that matter. Sarah stopped, confused. Excuse me? He chuckled softly. I can see it in your eyes, young lady. That spark. Don't let it fade. The world needs your talents. He gave her a knowing wink and closed the door gently. Sarah stood there for a moment, stunned. The rain seemed to have stopped, and a sliver of moon peeked through the clouds. Mr. Abernathy's words echoed in her ears, a faint echo of her grandmother's unwavering belief in her. Never let your talents fade, Maya, Grandma Lucy used to say, her voice filled with love. They're a gift, and gifts are meant to be shared. The warmth of the memory, combined with the unexpected encouragement from a stranger, began to melt the icy grip of self-doubt. Maybe, just maybe, she hadn't been entirely foolish. Maybe her solution was worth something. A flicker of hope ignited within her, small but persistent. She straightened her shoulders, took a deep breath, and resolved to follow up on her submission. She wouldn't let fear paralyze her. She owed it to herself, to Grandma Lucy, and perhaps even to the world to see this through. Back in her apartment, the glow of the laptop screen seemed less menacing, more inviting. She opened the temporary email account, her fingers trembling slightly less than before. Just as she was about to compose a polite inquiry, the phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, she answered. Hello, this is Maya Sullivan. Miss Sullivan, a crisp, professional voice replied. This is Emily Carter from TechFlow Solutions. We're calling regarding a solution you submitted anonymously. Mr. Mendez would like to schedule a meeting with you to discuss it further. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. The abyss wasn't so dark after all. But facing Mr. Mendez, facing TechFlow Solutions, that was a challenge she wasn't sure she was ready for. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. Emily Carter's words echoed in her mind. Mr. Mendez would like to schedule a meeting with you. The abyss wasn't dark, but the spotlight was terrifying. She agreed to the meeting, her voice barely a whisper. Tomorrow. TechFlow Solutions. The reality crashed down on her like a tidal wave. Panic threatened to engulf her. She was Maya Sullivan, pizza delivery driver, not some hotshot engineer ready to revolutionize the tech world. The phone call ended. Silence. She looked around her small apartment, suddenly noticing every imperfection, every chipped corner. How could she possibly face Mr. Mendez, the CEO of TechFlow, looking like this, feeling like this? Doubt clawed at her, whispering insidious lies. You're not good enough. They'll see right through you. You're a fraud. Sarah closed her eyes, willing the negative thoughts away. She remembered Grandma Lucy's words, "Never let your talents fade, Maya. They're a gift." This was it. This was her chance. She spent the rest of the evening preparing. First, research. She devoured every piece of information she could find about TechFlow Solutions, Mr. Mendez, their current projects, their challenges. She needed to be prepared for anything. Then, the presentation. She revisited her solution, refining it, adding details, anticipating questions. She rehearsed her pitch in front of the mirror, her voice wavering at first, then growing stronger with each repetition. "My solution addresses," she began, her hands trembling. She took a deep breath, remembering Mr. Abernathy's kind eyes and encouraging words. "Sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places," she continued, her voice gaining confidence. "The benefits include," she explained, outlining the key advantages of her system. She practiced answering potential questions, anticipating objections, and formulating clear, concise responses. She imagined Mr. Mendez sitting across the table from her, his gaze scrutinizing, evaluating. With each rehearsal, the fear lessened, replaced by a growing sense of determination. She wouldn't let her anxiety cripple her. She had a solution, a valuable contribution to make. She carefully chose her outfit, a simple professional dress that made her feel confident and capable. She wanted to project competence, even if she didn't feel it entirely. Sleep was elusive that night. She tossed and turned, her mind racing with possibilities and anxieties. What if they hated her idea? What if she froze up during the presentation? What if she completely embarrassed herself? But then she remembered Grandma Lucy's unwavering faith in her. She remembered Mr. Abernathy's gentle encouragement. She remembered the spark of excitement she felt when she first conceived the solution. As dawn approached, a sense of calm settled over her. She had done everything she could to prepare. Now, it was time to face the music. She grabbed her bag, took a deep breath and stepped out of her apartment. The city was waking up, bustling with activity. Sarah walked with purpose, her chin held high, towards the TechFlow Solutions building. This was it. She was stepping into the spotlight, ready to confront her insecurities and pursue her passion. This was her chance to reclaim her life. As she approached the towering glass building, she felt a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just about a job. It was about proving to herself that she was capable, that her talents mattered, that she could make a difference. She reached the entrance, pushed open the heavy glass doors, and stepped inside. The lobby was sleek and modern, filled with the hum of technology and the quiet murmur of conversations. She approached the reception desk, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hello?" she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I'm Maya Sullivan. I have a meeting with Mr. Mendez." The receptionist smiled politely. "One moment, please." She typed something into her computer, then looked up. "Mr. Mendez is expecting you. Please take the elevator to the 20th floor." Sarah nodded, took a deep breath and walked towards the elevators. The doors opened and she stepped inside. As the elevator ascended, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirrored walls. A nervous, determined woman stared back at her. She straightened her shoulders, took another deep breath and prepared herself for what awaited her on the 20th floor. She was ready to present her solution, ready to fight for her dreams. But what exactly awaited her at TechFlow Solutions? She had no idea. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. The elevator doors chimed open on the 20th floor. Stepping out, Maya was met with a stark contrast to the lobby below. This wasn't the sleek, modern space she expected. Instead, it was a functional, almost utilitarian office. Rows of desks were crammed together, each occupied by engineers hunched over computers, their faces illuminated by the glow of multiple screens. The air buzzed with the low hum of servers and the frantic tapping of keyboards. A woman with a severe bun and even more severe glasses approached. "Maya Sullivan? I'm Emily Carter, Mr. Mendez' assistant. He's expecting you. Right this way." Emily's voice was clipped and efficient, leaving no room for pleasantries. Maya followed her through the maze of desks, acutely aware of the curious glances thrown her way. She felt like an outsider, a pizza delivery girl who had somehow stumbled into a tech conference. Her carefully constructed confidence wavered. Emily stopped before a glass-walled office overlooking the city. "Mr. Mendez will see you now." She gestured curtly towards the door. Taking a deep breath, Maya walked in. Richard Mendez, a man with a weary face and kind eyes, stood up from behind his desk. He was older than she expected, with streaks of grey in his neatly combed hair. He offered a warm, if somewhat tired, smile. "Ms. Sullivan, thank you for coming. Or should I say, Ms. Anonymous?" He gestured to a chair. Maya sat down, trying to regain her composure. "Mr. Mendez, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. So you're the one who solved the algorithm bottleneck." He leaned back in his chair, studying her intently. "Frankly, I was expecting someone different." Maya braced herself. This was it. The skepticism she had feared was already palpable. "Different how?" "Well," Mendez said, choosing his words carefully, "your background? Pizza delivery? MIT graduate? Sure, but it's not exactly the typical profile for someone who can crack our code." Maya felt a familiar wave of self-doubt wash over her. She fought it back. "I understand your skepticism, Mr. Mendez, but I assure you, my experience delivering pizzas hasn't diminished my engineering skills. In fact, it's given me a unique perspective on efficiency and optimization." He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh? And how's that? Delivering pizzas? You learn to find the fastest routes, anticipate delays, and optimize your resources to get the job done quickly and efficiently. Those are the same principles I applied to solving your algorithm problem." Maya pulled out a tablet from her bag. "If you'll allow me, I can walk you through my solution." As Maya began to explain her approach, the room seemed to shift. The skepticism in Mendez's eyes slowly faded, replaced by a flicker of interest. She used clear, concise language, avoiding technical jargon, and focusing on the practical benefits of her solution. She demonstrated how her algorithm could streamline their processes, reduce errors, and ultimately save the company money. She could feel the engineers around them subtly listening in. Their initial dismissiveness was replaced with a cautious curiosity. One or two even stopped typing to listen more intently. When she finished, a silence hung in the air. Mendez steepled his fingers, his gaze fixed on Maya. "Impressive," he finally said. "Very impressive, but can it work?" "I'm confident it can, Mr. Mendez. I've run simulations, and the results are promising." "Simulations are one thing. Real-world application is another." He paused, then a hint of a smile played on his lips. "Tell you what, Miss Sullivan, I'm going to give you a chance to prove it." He turned to Emily, who had been standing silently by the door. "Emily, get legal on the phone. I want a temporary contract drawn up. 3 months, consulting basis. Ms. Sullivan will be working with our engineering team to implement her solution." Emily's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded and disappeared. Mendez turned back to Maya. "This won't be easy. Our engineers are a skeptical bunch. You'll have to win them over. But if you can deliver on your promise, it could be a game-changer for TechFlow." He extended his hand. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Sullivan. Or should I start calling you Maya?" Maya shook his hand, a surge of hope flooding through her. This was it, her chance to prove herself. "Thank you, Mr. Mendez. You can call me Maya." As she left his office, she could feel the weight of expectation on her shoulders. The engineers were watching her now, their faces a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. She had a long road ahead of her, but for the first time in a long time, Maya felt a spark of excitement. Richard Mendez watched Maya walk away, a thoughtful expression on his face. He picked up the phone. "Get me Richard Mendez Jr. I want to talk about the new project." The work ahead was going to be challenging, but he had a feeling that Maya Sullivan, Maya as she now wanted to be called, was exactly what TechFlow needed. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door. Now, inside TechFlow's bustling office, Maya felt the weight of Richard Mendez's faith settle heavily on her shoulders. The engineering team, a sea of focused faces behind glowing monitors, barely glanced her way as she walked towards her assigned workstation. It was a clear message. Prove yourself. The first few days were a blur of coding, testing, and debugging. Maya dove headfirst into the project, fueled by adrenaline and a desperate need to validate Mendez's decision. The pressure was immense. The engineers, while not overtly hostile, maintained a polite distance, their skepticism palpable. She could feel their eyes on her, analyzing every line of code, every decision she made. "So, this is the MIT whiz kid," a voice drawled from behind her. Maya turned to see a man with a weary smile and kind eyes. It was Richard Mendez Jr., she assumed, the one Mendez had called after their meeting. "I'm Maya," she replied, extending her hand. "And I'm trying." "Richard," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "Look, don't let them get to you. They're a tough crowd, but they respect results, and frankly, we need a win." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "My father sees something in you. I trust his judgment. But you've got to show them what you've got." Richard's words were a lifeline. He understood the pressure she was under, the silent judgment she faced. He was an ally. Days bled into nights. Maya subsisted on coffee and sheer willpower, fueled by the memory of her grandmother's unwavering belief in her. Grandma Lucy would have told her to keep her head down and work hard, to let her talent speak for itself. But self-doubt gnawed at her. Was she good enough? Had she bitten off more than she could chew? The code was complex, the deadlines tight, and the engineer's scrutiny relentless. There were moments when she wanted to pack her bags and disappear, to return to the anonymity of delivering pizzas, where failure meant a late delivery, not the potential collapse of a multi-million-dollar project. One particularly frustrating evening, after hours of battling a stubborn bug, Maya slammed her fist on the desk in frustration. "Having a rough night?" Richard Mendez Sr., not Jr., stood behind her, his expression unreadable. Maya sighed, running a hand through her tangled hair. "I just can't seem to crack this one. It's like the code is fighting me." Mendez pulled up a chair beside her, his presence surprisingly comforting. "Engineering is a battle, Maya, a constant struggle against the limitations of logic and the stubbornness of machines. The key is resilience. To keep getting up, keep trying, even when you feel like giving up." He paused, then added softly, "My father always told me, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Don't let this fire break you, Maya. Let it forge you." He pointed to a line of code. "Have you tried looking at it from this angle?" Together they worked through the problem, Mendez offering subtle suggestions, guiding her towards the solution without taking over. His mentorship was invaluable, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the anxiety swirling inside her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the bug was squashed. The code ran smoothly. A wave of relief washed over Maya, so intense it almost brought her to tears. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Mendez smiled, a rare and genuine expression. "You did it, Maya. I just pointed you in the right direction. You have the talent, the drive. Just remember to trust yourself." As the deadline loomed closer, the pressure intensified. Maya worked tirelessly, fueled by a renewed sense of determination and the unwavering support of Richard Mendez, both senior and junior. She found herself relying on Richard Jr. more and more, his technical expertise and calm demeanor proving invaluable. He helped her navigate the complex codebase, offering insights and suggestions that she hadn't considered. She also started to connect with some of the other engineers. Slowly, cautiously, they began to warm up to her, recognizing her dedication and the potential of her solution. They started asking questions, offering suggestions, collaborating as a team. The initial skepticism began to fade, replaced by a grudging respect. But as the final days dwindled, a new threat emerged. A critical error, buried deep within the system, threatened to unravel everything she had worked so hard to achieve. It was a showstopper, a catastrophic bug that could render her entire solution useless. Panic surged through Maya, threatening to drown her in despair. She had come so far, worked so hard. Could this one error destroy everything? Sarah felt her heart plummet. The screen glared back at her, mocking her with its red error message. It was back, the bug, the one she thought she'd squashed. All the progress, all the late nights, the breakthroughs, gone. A wave of despair threatened to drown her. She slumped back in her chair, the fight draining out of her. "I can't," she whispered, the words barely audible. "I just can't." The office seemed to fade into a blurry haze of monitors and keyboards. The low hum of the servers, usually a comforting background noise, now felt like a mocking chorus. She was ready to pack it in, to admit defeat, to go back to delivering pizzas. At least there, the only errors were wrong toppings, not lines of code that could bring down an entire system. Then a hand gently touched her shoulder. Richard Mendez. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, a silent presence. She avoided his gaze, ashamed of her failure, of her vulnerability. "Maya," he said, his voice low and calm. "Look at me." She hesitated, then slowly lifted her head. His eyes, usually sharp and businesslike, were filled with a surprising warmth. "Do you remember when we first talked? When you told me about your grandmother and why you wanted this?" Maya nodded, a lump forming in her throat. Grandma Lucy, always her biggest cheerleader, always believing in her potential. "I saw something in you, Maya. Something special. I saw that spark, that brilliance. This error, it's just a bump in the road. It doesn't define you. It doesn't erase all the hard work you've done." His words, simple and direct, were like a lifeline. A tiny flicker of hope ignited within her. "But it's so complex, I don't know where to even start." Richard smiled, a small, encouraging smile. "You will. You've already come this far. You understand the system better than anyone else. Trust your instincts. Trust your abilities. You figured it out once, you can figure it out again." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "Take some time. Clear your head. Isolate yourself if you need to. Review the code, line by line. You'll find it. I know you will." He paused, then added, "I believe in you, Maya. Don't give up on yourself." Richard left her then, leaving her alone with her thoughts. His words echoed in her mind, a powerful antidote to the despair that had threatened to consume her. "He believes in me." The thought resonated deep within her, a source of unexpected strength. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled. The panic began to subside, replaced by a renewed sense of determination. Richard was right. She had come this far. She did understand the system. She could do this. Pushing back from her desk, she stood up, her legs feeling a little shaky. She grabbed her notebook, a fresh cup of coffee, and headed to a quiet corner of the office, a small, secluded space where she could focus without distractions. She opened her notebook and began to methodically review the code, line by line, tracing the flow of data, searching for the subtle anomaly that was causing the error. Hours passed, blurring into a single-minded focus. The office around her faded away, the only reality the intricate web of code before her. She felt the familiar frustration creeping back, the urge to give up, to walk away. But then she remembered Richard's words, Grandma Lucy's unwavering belief, and the fire in her belly reignited. She wouldn't let them down. She wouldn't let herself down. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible error. A misplaced semicolon buried deep within a complex function. It was so small, so insignificant, yet it was the root cause of all the chaos. A gasp escaped her lips. Relief washed over her, so intense it almost brought her to her knees. She had found it. She had found the error, the final piece of the puzzle. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, correcting the mistake, recompiling the code. She held her breath as the system ran its tests, the seconds stretching into an eternity. Then the screen flashed green. The tests passed. The error was gone. A triumphant smile spread across her face. She had done it. She had faced her demons, conquered her doubts, and emerged victorious. But as the adrenaline began to fade, a new realization dawned on her. She knew what the error was, but she didn't yet fully understand why it had happened. What was the underlying cause? What was the vulnerability in the system that allowed such a small mistake to have such a devastating impact? And that, she knew, was the key to truly solving the problem, to preventing it from happening again. She had found the symptom. Now she needed to find the disease. The climactic moment of truth was within her grasp. Sarah worked through the night. The glow of the monitor illuminated her face, reflecting the intensity of her focus. Coffee fueled her, but it was the burning desire to prove herself that truly kept her going. The tiny semicolon, now etched in her memory, felt like a personal victory flag. But she wasn't finished. Not yet. Hours blurred. The office was silent, except for the rhythmic tapping of her fingers on the keyboard. Finally, as the first rays of dawn crept through the windows, she had it. A full diagnostic report, tracing the error back to a flawed algorithm in the system's core security protocol. It was a subtle vulnerability, easily overlooked but with potentially catastrophic consequences. She ran the corrected code, holding her breath. The system hummed, whirred, and then the screen flashed green. Again. But this time, it felt different. This time, it wasn't just a patch, it was a fix, a real, lasting solution. Exhaustion washed over her, but beneath it, a wave of pure, unadulterated triumph surged through her veins. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and allowed herself a moment to savor the victory. The next morning, the TechFlow team was buzzing. The system was back online, running smoothly, and the crisis had been averted. Richard Mendez, his face etched with relief, called an emergency meeting. "I want to thank everyone for their hard work," he began, his voice hoarse. "But I especially want to thank Sarah." All eyes turned to her. Sarah, usually so quick to shrink under scrutiny, stood tall. "Sarah identified and fixed the error that brought our entire system down," Richard continued, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "And not just fixed it, she found the root cause and implemented a solution that will prevent this from happening again." A murmur rippled through the room. Faces that had been skeptical, even dismissive, now held expressions of respect. One by one, the engineers approached her, offering their congratulations. "I didn't think it was possible," one of them admitted, shaking his head. "I was wrong. You're good, Sarah. Really good." Another added, "That was some impressive coding. We could use someone like you on the team." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't just the praise, it was the feeling of belonging, of finally being seen for who she truly was. Richard approached her, a broad smile on his face. "Sarah," he said, "I have a proposition for you. How would you like to join TechFlow full-time?" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Full-time?" she echoed, barely able to believe her ears. "Absolutely," Richard confirmed. "We need your talent, your innovative thinking. You've proven yourself invaluable. We'd be lucky to have you." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. It wasn't just a job offer. It was validation. It was the recognition she had craved for so long. "I don't know what to say," she stammered, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Say yes," Richard chuckled. "Say you'll help us build something amazing." "Yes," Sarah said, her voice clear and strong. "Yes, I will." The TechFlow team erupted in applause. Sarah smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that reached her eyes. She had faced her ultimate trial, and she had emerged victorious. She had earned her reward. Later that evening, as Sarah drove home, a sense of profound peace settled over her. She glanced at the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of her own reflection. The woman staring back was different. She was stronger, more confident, more alive. She thought back to the pizza deliveries, the endless nights, the feeling of being stuck in a dead-end job. It seemed like a lifetime ago. And then, a surprising thought occurred to her. Her experience as a pizza delivery driver, navigating unfamiliar streets, solving logistical puzzles and interacting with all sorts of people, it had given her a unique perspective on problem-solving. It had taught her resilience, resourcefulness, and the importance of connecting with others. It had even sparked her creativity in unexpected ways. Maybe, just maybe, those years weren't a waste after all. Maybe they were part of a larger plan, a stepping stone on her journey to becoming the person she was always meant to be. And maybe, now that she had found her own path, she could use her skills and her experiences to help others find theirs. The idea resonated within her, a seed of hope planted in the fertile ground of her newfound confidence. She smiled, a new purpose beginning to bloom in her heart. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt truly excited about what the future held. Mary felt her heart pounding as she walked into Richard Mendez's office. This time, the feeling wasn't fear, but anticipation. She carried with her a proposal, not for a quick fix, but for something much bigger, something that resonated with the very core of her being. "Richard," she began, placing the neatly bound document on his desk, "I've been thinking a lot about TechFlow, about the challenges we face and about the incredible potential that might be hidden right under our noses." Richard leaned back in his chair, his gaze intense. "Go on, Mary. I'm listening." "I want to propose a new program," she said, her voice steady. "I'm calling it Hidden Talents. It's designed to identify and nurture overlooked talent from unconventional backgrounds. People like me, maybe. People who haven't had the traditional pathways, but who possess the drive, the creativity, and the problem-solving skills we desperately need." She explained her vision, a program that would actively seek out individuals with unique experiences, providing them with training, mentorship, and opportunities to contribute their skills to TechFlow. She spoke of internships, scholarships, and partnerships with community organizations. She emphasized the importance of creating a supportive and inclusive environment where everyone felt valued and empowered. Richard listened intently, his initial skepticism slowly melting away. He saw the passion in Mary's eyes, the conviction in her voice. He recognized the brilliance of her idea, a way to tap into a vast pool of untapped potential and revitalize TechFlow's culture. When she finished, he sat in silence for a moment, then a slow smile spread across his face. "Mary," he said, this is exactly what we need. I'm in. Let's make it happen." And so the Hidden Talents program was born. The first few months were challenging. There were skeptics who doubted the program's effectiveness, and there were logistical hurdles to overcome. But Mary, fueled by her own experience and her unwavering belief in the potential of others, persevered. She visited community centers, attended job fairs, and networked with local organizations. She sought out individuals who had faced adversity, who had overcome obstacles, and who possessed a burning desire to make a difference. Slowly but surely, the program began to gain momentum. Talented individuals from all walks of life started to apply, eager for the opportunity to prove themselves. Mary and her team carefully reviewed each application, looking beyond traditional qualifications and focusing on potential, passion, and problem-solving skills. The first cohort of Hidden Talents interns arrived at TechFlow with a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were a diverse group, representing a wide range of backgrounds and experiences. Some had come from low-income communities, others had faced discrimination, and still others had simply been overlooked by the traditional hiring process. Mary made it her mission to create a welcoming and supportive environment for them. She paired them with experienced mentors, provided them with training and resources, and encouraged them to share their ideas and perspectives. At first, some of the TechFlow engineers were hesitant to embrace the new interns. They were used to working with individuals who had followed the traditional path, and they weren't sure what to make of these unconventional newcomers. But as the interns began to contribute their skills and insights, the engineers' skepticism gradually faded. They saw the value in the interns' unique perspectives, and they began to appreciate the diversity of thought that the Hidden Talents program brought to TechFlow. One of the interns, a young woman named Aisha, who had previously worked as a waitress, came up with a brilliant solution to a long-standing technical problem. Another intern, a former construction worker named David, used his practical experience to improve the efficiency of TechFlow's manufacturing process. As the Hidden Talents program grew, it began to transform TechFlow's culture. The company became more inclusive, more innovative, and more dynamic. Employees from all backgrounds felt valued and empowered, and the company's bottom line improved as a result. Mary watched with pride as the Hidden Talents program flourished. She saw her own journey reflected in the stories of the interns, and she felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that she was helping others to realize their potential. She had come full circle, using her experience to create opportunities for others and redefine the meaning of success. She was no longer the insecure and disillusioned engineer who had delivered pizzas to TechFlow. She was a visionary leader, a champion of overlooked talent, and a force for positive change. One day, Richard called Mary into his office. He gestured for her to sit down, then leaned forward, his eyes twinkling. "Mary," he said, "I want to thank you. You've transformed this company. You've brought in new ideas, new perspectives, and a new sense of purpose. You've shown us that talent can be found in the most unexpected places, and you've inspired us to create a more inclusive and equitable workplace." He paused, then added, "You know, when I first met you, I saw something special in you. I saw your potential, your drive, and your passion, but I never imagined that you would achieve this much. You've exceeded all my expectations." Mary smiled, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you, Richard," she said, "but I couldn't have done it without you. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Richard smiled back. "You earned it, Mary. You earned it all." As Mary left Richard's office, she paused to look out the window. The city stretched out before her, a vast landscape of possibilities. She thought back to her grandmother Lucy, to her unwavering belief in her potential. She remembered Mr. Abernathy's words, his cryptic encouragement to use her skills to make a difference. She knew that her journey was far from over. There were still challenges to overcome, still obstacles to conquer, but she was no longer afraid. She had found her purpose, her passion, and her place in the world. She walked down the hallway, a confident stride in her step. She passed Aisha and David, the interns who had become her friends and allies. She smiled at them and they smiled back. She knew that together they could make a difference. Together they could create a world where everyone had the opportunity to shine. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating Mary's face. She took a deep breath, filled with hope and determination. The future was bright, and she was ready to embrace it. She was ready to lead, to inspire, and to make a lasting impact on the world. Her journey had come full circle, and she had returned with the elixir, the knowledge that true success lies not in personal achievement, but in empowering others to achieve their dreams. And with that, Mary stepped forward, ready to build a better future, one hidden talent at a time.